Leadership interview questions. A lot of my project management experts have gotten certified, and the next step is looking for that dream job. While some project management professionals go for jobs in program or project management, some project management professionals, believe it or not, are already looking for leadership positions. As a result of that, I have put together some leadership interview questions. In the past couple of months, I have had two of my project management mentees get into some high powered leadership roles. And it gives me great pleasure to share that news because it's one thing to get certified, but it's another thing to land that dream job. And to land that dream job, you need to go with everything possible to that interview: leadership skills, business and strategic management skills, technical skills. That's the talent triangle. So today, we're going to focus on these key leadership interview questions that will expand your mind and get you to think a little bit more about leadership as you experienced it in previous jobs and as you have perceived it through the lens of the Project Management Institute. Specifically, Chapter 3 in the PMP Guide is a great place for you to hone in on understanding the concept of leadership. As John Maxwell says, the true measure of leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. He says, "He who thinketh he leadeth, but has no one following after him, is only taking a walk." So as you go into that leadership interview, my friends, you want to go in with the understanding, the solid understanding that leadership is all about the ability to influence. So these questions will test you on just that: your ability to influence the team, the ability to influence the organization in one way or another. Let's get started. First question: tell me, what is leadership? Were you able to answer that question in a sentence? For all of these questions, while you may have a very expanded view, it is important to understand that less is more. You want to whittle your answer into a very powerful nucleus of information, very, very powerful nucleus of information that can be given to anyone asking you the question in seconds. You don't want to drone on and on. Leadership, we know, is many things, but I'll give you a clue. The key measure of how great a leader you are is how much influence you have, not just over an individual, but in the department, in the company. When you speak, do people listen? What have you done to get them to listen, to pay attention? That's what tells us how great a leader one is: the ability to influence. Now, in addition to the ability to influence, you need to understand what causes you to have influence. And I talk about this quite a lot on this channel. So I'm not going to go into the many, many hours of videos that I've put up, but I'm going to ask you to answer this question. Look for my video on leadership versus management. Leadership is many things, but at the core, the nucleus, it's influence. And what makes you influential? I talk about this in the 5 levels of leadership that I've spoken about so many times on this channel. Your ability to be likable, the production, things that you have done for the company that people can see, how you have contributed to people and their success, be a river, right? And last but not least, everything: your ability to cast vision, your ability to communicate effectively, you being a person who loves people. All of those things make you more influential. So when you're thinking about crafting your answer for "tell me what is leadership," think about these things. Look out for those videos. Second point: tell me of a time when you have demonstrated leadership skills in leading a team. Does anything come to mind? I really hope so. This question should leverage on your project management abilities because what are you doing as a project manager? You are leading a team. Did it ever occur to you that the same skills that people use to lead bigger teams and business units are very similar skills needed to lead a project? So, a time when you have demonstrated leadership skills and leading a team, if you haven't led a business unit or department, that's okay. Maybe you've led a program, maybe you've led several clusters of projects, programs, or portfolios. This is where you can leverage that experience, hone in on it, and explain how you did it, what you did. Vision, the ability to cast vision. Communicate, the ability to communicate effectively with team members. Empathy, the ability to empathize with team members. The ability to reward and recognize everyone's contribution, and many, many other skills. Next question. What is your leadership style? Now, I expect a significant amount of thought from those who may not have given it thought before, but if you have given this thought, you should know what your leadership style is. The way I would approach this question is to underscore that one leadership style is not the best approach. Your leadership style should be one of flexibility. It should be, in many instances, a transactional style. And in other instances, it could be something else. But beyond this question lies an even broader concept of leadership. Do you lead by delegating? When do you lead by delegating? Do you lead by purely influence and coaching? When do you do that? Do you lead mainly by directing? When do you use a purely directive style versus a delegating style? When do you use a delegating style versus an influence or coaching style? And questions such as that. I would like you to read up a little bit about the four broad categories of leadership styles. And if you want to read up more about this, I would suggest you go to the following website, kenblanchard.com. And when you get to the website, you want to look for the situational leadership model. What is a situational leadership model? Pretty much gives you a model for understanding how to respond to team members as a leader. The model consists of a grid, an x-axis, and a y-axis. The x-axis has variables that allude to directive behavior, so to speak. And the y-axis has variables that show supportive behavior. So as a leader, you can support or you can direct, but there's a blend. You could have low directive behavior and low supportive behavior because the people you're dealing with, they don't really need your support and they really don't need your direction. They are capable. So you can delegate to those people. Those people with the need for support but less direction, you can support them. And you could say that is a supportive style of leadership. And those that have the need for both a high support and high direction, they're in the top grid. So when you go to Ken's website, you'll see this grid. And the idea is this: a situational leadership approach does not can a leadership style as supportive, coaching, directive, or delegating. You see 360 that different people around you could need any one of those styles. And team members, depending on where they are in their career or where they are in a particular situation, could need any one of those leadership styles. In a comfort zone and a strength zone, I would need more delegating. But in a zone of weakness and vulnerability, I may need coaching or directing. So when someone asks, what is your leadership style? Do not be quick to say one or the other. Rather, understand that as a leader, depending on the team member and the specific unique situation, your leadership style could morph and adapt. So rather than describe, I'm a kind leader or I'm a draconian leader, which I hope you're not, give some time to pause and think about what exactly you should be doing at any point in time, which is open and flexible. What leadership values are most important to you? Well, this is a question only you can answer for yourself. But when you think about leadership values, there is one overarching value in my mind. And this overarching value, it is what everything else rests on. The most, in my mind, important leadership value is trust. John C. Maxwell says, trust is like change in a leader's pocket. Anytime you do something good, anytime you do something that warrants a round of applause from the team, you, as it were, get currency, change into your pocket. But anytime a leader does something bad or unfavorable, they get to pay some of that change out of their pocket. Change is that trust. So trust is like change in a leader's pocket. With it, he's solvent. But without it, he's bankrupt. And a bankrupt leader is not a leader to follow. Other core values to think about is reliability, consistency, honesty, open-mindedness, commitment, vision, casting ability, and many more. But let's move on to our next question here. What is your conflict management approach? Again, this question should not can you in to one specific approach. This question will test your understanding of conflict resolution approaches and why each one is relevant. So if you have not thought about the conflict resolution approaches, it will be a good thing for you to do before going to any leadership interview, because conflict and the lack of conflict management could make or break a project. Well-managed conflict is great. When conflict is not managed, it's destructive. Well-managed conflict could give better ideas, better solutions, increased perspectives in many areas. So you need to understand that a conflict resolution approach of avoidance is not bad under certain circumstances. Under certain circumstances, avoidance could save resources, save lives, and things such as that. Driving along on the freeway and you're cut off and you get into it, and someone loses a life. An avoidance strategy would make more sense. Not even as serious as that in business. Two business units get into it and go back and forth for weeks and months, wasting resources, wasting precious collaborative time. What good is that when you could have avoided it? Zero sum or a loss even. What are you going to gain from that? Not good. So your approach to resolving conflict should be to choose the best approach for the situation, to choose the best approach for the stakeholders at play. An avoidance strategy could be great when there is a time crunch and you'll never ever have to go through that ever again. Not using an avoidance strategy could make the conflict live on, and things could get ugly. Think about another conflict management approach, which is one of forcing. A forcing conflict resolution style, my way or the highway, as bad as it sounds, may actually be a more palatable approach to use or a more sensible approach to use in the case of an emergency. So if there's an emergency, you won't use avoid, you won't use smooth, you won't use reconcile. You would use a forcing approach. For the sake of everyone else's life, it may not be a bad thing. So, depending on the situation, again, your conflict management approach needs to be flexible. Tell me what you think of criticism. Now, there are many perspectives to this question. Tell me what you think about lack of criticism. What do you think about a lack of criticism where people refuse to criticize? What do you have to say about that? Think about it. Now, come back to the question. What do you think about criticism? Does it change your perspective? Okay, here's another question. What do you think of positive criticism? Another question. What do you think about negative criticism? Now, what would you define positive criticism to be? And what would you define negative criticism to be? So, when you approach this topic, you need to think about criticism in a number of ways. You need to think about criticism as being equity that you need to cash in on. Criticism is not bad in the eyes of the project manager. You always need to see criticism as being good. Someone would refer to positive criticism as constructive criticism. But constructive criticism is just that. It draws attention to a good aspect that is being ignored or disregarded. In instances where you receive criticism of any kind, be it positive or negative, always try to see the nugget in it. And that's what I think about criticism. Criticism is equity that needs to be cashed in on. It's just that, whether it's positive or whether it's negative. So, thinking about criticism as a leader, you need to see for what it is. It's an opportunity for you to cash in on that equity. What distinguishes a leader from followers? There are many, many things that do. What do you think distinguishes a leader from followers? If at any point in time you feel like you need more time to answer the question before hearing my response, just go ahead and do that. But what distinguishes a leader from a follower in your mind? It might be different from what distinguishes a leader from a follower in my mind. Doesn't make it right or wrong. So we may have different perspectives. But I love a quote from Steve Jobs, and you probably realize I quote him a lot. But Steve Jobs, he says, innovation distinguishes between a leader and a follower. Innovation is defined as the action or process of innovating a new method, a new product, a new idea. Do better than anyone else. Follow that passion, see it through. That is a true innovator. Why join the Navy when you can be a pirate, he said. But Steve Jobs was a radical, you already know that. What distinguishes a leader from a follower is volunteering, stepping out, doing the hard things, doing the things no one else wants to touch, doing the work in the background, spending the long hours no one knows about, and never stopping, never staying, but always moving forward to improve. So, being dogged, rugged, tough, tenacious are also qualities. Being innovative, thinking out of the box, and encouraging people to do so distinguishes a leader from followers. People who have great leadership skills, leadership abilities, you see them coming up with great new ideas, but not just that, following the ideas through all the way to the end. Next question. What is a leadership trait you feel gives you an edge over other leaders? What is it? For you, it could be something different than me. For some leaders that I see, it is being driven, the drive they have. They have so much drive, it's unbelievable. The drive propels them to do unimaginable things, physical feats that would have you wondering, how do you do that at the age of 80, at the age of 70? For other people, it's just the ability to connect. It's the ability to show people the impossible, show them that they can do it. So, what is a leadership trait that you feel gives you an edge over other leaders? Note it says you feel, it didn't say that gives you. So, when you get questions like that on interviews, I would advise that you do not argue the question, but you could be very clear to say, I feel this is an edge I have. Next question. Tell me, what is your approach to mentoring? Now, this question puts you in a perspective where you can be a mentor or the mentee. Regardless the approach, mentoring is a key part of leadership. Great leaders understand they need mentors. Great leaders understand they should mentor because in that way they are a river, they're giving out and they're getting in. And it just presents a great dynamic to grow and expand others and yourself. So, what is your approach to it? Do you have a formal structure in mind? Great leaders, they put mentoring and coaching and training opportunities in place because they know their people need to grow. And in order for their people to take on the tough jobs, they need to grow. And one of the key ways to grow is by mentoring. Great leaders duplicate themselves. If you are looking to duplicate yourself, mentoring is a great vehicle to do that. Having a fondness for mentoring shows that you're willing to grow a business unit, a firm, a department, whatever it is. Next question. Tell me, what is your approach to delegating? To answer this question, I would advise that you look for my series on delegating, which is on YouTube. If you go to the Praizion channel, you can't miss it. But there are many different approaches to delegating, many different facets, too many to go into here. But one of my favorites is when you're delegating, don't just delegate the dirty jobs. When you're delegating, put yourself in the shoes of the person you are delegating that responsibility to. And if you cannot roll up your sleeves to get them some acceleration and traction, or you cannot encourage a vision that enables them to understand why you're delegating, don't do it. So delegate with thought, with intention, and with an end goal for the person you're delegating to. How do you delegate responsibilities? This has been answered in what I just said. Delegate responsibilities with intention and thought. Don't just delegate what you feel to be a draining job. Delegate with purpose. Tell me, how would you create a high-performing team and environment for such? I would say to any leader who wants to create this environment, you first of all need to build that trust and confidence. Trust and confidence trumps everything else. Act with integrity, keep commitments, be trustworthy, provide a consistent message for your team, support team members when they are confronted with unjustified criticism, especially when it is done with a streak to penalize them or make them feel bad. Help them see the positive and the good in that criticism, but be there to support them, maintain composure, demonstrate fairness, create an atmosphere that encourages respect and consideration of others. Remember, the code of ethics that you esteem highly will support the team. Understanding that we're all different in the team and enabling people to be themselves is very important. I would summarize all of this in John C. Maxwell's charisma, and he has a word for each letter. C is for concern, H is for help, A is for action, the ability to make things happen, R is for results, I is for influence, and S for sensitivity. So have concern for your stakeholders, help them, help to make things happen, help to get results, influence, and be sensitive to the team. M is for motivate, and A is for affirm, build up rather than tear down. Get people to the point where they feel comfortable in your presence and in your department. And even if everyone else was against them, you are there to support them. That is how you create that environment. And with that, my friends, I hope you have benefited from this brief leadership interview question session. Those of you who are now PMPs, I am looking forward to hearing great news of you moving into leadership roles, leading companies, leading business units, leading departments, leading portfolios, and significant endeavors. You've done what you need to. You've proven you've got what it takes. Now, step up to the plate. Thank you very much for joining me. Those of you who have not subscribed, subscribe to the channel, and I look forward to speaking to you again. Bye for now.